What's going on, everybody? How you doing out there in Atlanta Bird Gangland? Uncle Steve's Lounge on YouTube. Just let that bad boy ride for a little bit. My boy Blake Pace, a little bit of love he gave me for this particular podcast. I can groove to that all day. You get some of that funkadelic like stuff. I can dig it. How y'all doing today? It is Saturday, February 12th. Of course, we are on the eve of the Super Bowl this year in Los Angeles, SoFi Stadium, where the Cincinnati Bengals, the AFC champions, go up against the Los Angeles Rams. And I've heard so many different things about who's going to win, who's not. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. We're going to try to keep it a little local first, and then we'll get into the Super Bowl picks. I have my picks, my pick for the Super Bowl game coming up in a little bit. Until then, we want to hear from you all out there. Can't wait to talk about it today. And even today, I might even throw on the phones here for a little bit. I'm going to get them connected, but I'll put it up there. 1-877-747-2346. And if you happen to have the StreamYard connection, you can see it on your web, and you want to join me for a couple of seconds to holler about what you think about the game or what we're about to talk about. I am game. It is free for all. This is an unusual day for me because normally I'm at work, but I am here today. So we're going to try to get into a little football talk. I hadn't had a chance to get with you all since last weekend. So eager to talk about some of the things that were going on this week. So let's start with that pretty good interview with Arthur Blank that the Orlando Ledbetter did earlier this week, kind of a State of the Falcons address, if you will, where Arthur Blank touched on a couple of topics. And you know, when the great thing about today's world, whether I like it or not, or whether you like it or not, that the majority of people are going to be heard. A lot of things you don't like and a lot of things you might agree with, but I just love the fact that people are heard. There are so many things that I don't agree with, especially in the world of sports, as far as certain opinions. I have always, it's been very odd to me. Hey, Christopher, what's going on? I see you out there in Uncle Steve's Lounge. Thanks for joining us, brother. We appreciate you as always. Thanks for tuning in. Arthur Blank, for the most part, I know since he bought the team, I think it's been kind of a 50-50 thing with him. I think that you have a lot of people that really are Team Arthur and think he has looked out for the team. I'm probably in that camp more than anything else. I think Arthur Blank has been a big upgrade over what we had previous in the Rankin Smith regime. And I think he's somebody that has put his money where his mouth is. We talk about it all the time about sayers and doers. And for the most part, Arthur Blank has pretty much backed himself up with things he said he's going to do. Now, when it comes to the actual interactions of the team, when you start talking about players and coaches and things of that nature, well, it's always interesting because since Arthur Blank's been here, he inherited Dan Reeves. Let's remember that. Dan Reeves was the coach of the Super Bowl team and the Falcons. After the year after they lost in the Super Bowl, they had a really horrible year the year after. And then, of course, they sold the Falcons the year after that. And Dan Reeves had the 1 year with Mike Vick where he ran to the Super Bowl, not to scratch. He ran to the playoffs and was able to, that was the year that Mike Vick beat Green Bay and stuff like that. So his first coaching hire was Jim Mora. Now he learned Jim Mora Jr., I should say. He learned from that. That was pretty much a learning phase. He was giving Jim Mora a little bit of credit, and let's not pretend like Jim Mora didn't take us to um, the playoffs. He did. He took us to one step from the Super Bowl, and then he kind of phased off. Now the Mike Smith hire, and that was also along with the Thomas Dimitroff hire in 2008. I tend to think that was a good hire. I know it's easy for us to go back. Now, Thomas Dimitroff didn't help us with a lot of the contracts towards the end of his regime, but let's not pretend that Thomas Dimitroff didn't help usher in a different culture change for the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons had 5 straight winning seasons, folks. You cannot deny that. I know a lot of people don't want to give credit, but he did at least give us that. And that was a hire that Arthur Smith made. Dimitroff was coming hot off the New England Patriots family tree, so he plucked him out, and they got, to me, in my opinion, I think was the best coach in franchise history in Mike Smith. The winning part of it is hard to argue at all. Mike Smith had 5 winning seasons. I don't think any other coach in the history of the franchise has had 5 winning seasons. So to me, that puts him all the way at number 1. Now, of course, Dan Quinn came along, and that was another hire. We kept Dimitroff in place, and Dan Quinn came, Super Bowl 12 months later. So again, can't really complain about that as much either, because the results were there the year after. And now we're up to Arthur Smith, and TBD for Arthur Smith, because this is only the first year. You can't sit here and judge the man off of 1 year, and a roster full of pretty much one-hit wonders and a lot of inflated salaries that you're either waiting to get off the books or somehow during this next month or two kind of make some changes where we can ease some of these guys off the roster. Look for that to happen. What's up, Montavious? Good to see you, brother. I am doing just fine. Joining y'all on a Saturday night just to talk Falcons, talk football. And I didn't put on the list Arthur Blank and trade rumors and Super Bowl picks. And, of course, our buddy, Matt Ryan. We can't, I'm sorry, folks, for those who, you always talk about Matt Ryan. Well, Matt Ryan's the quarterback of an NFL team, and he's the quarterback for our team, so he will be talked about. If you don't like it, you can pretty much wait for something else to come on. But we are an Atlanta Falcons-based group. My page is strictly Atlanta sports, and we talk a lot about who our stars are. And right now, Matt Ryan is our quarterback. So good or bad, we're going to talk about him. And that includes tonight. But we're starting with Arthur Blank because the interview that he had with Orlando Ledbetter, a lot of folks wanted to give him a lot of grief about a couple of things. Now, first, there was I saw a little bit of backlash to me when he was asked about what, the things going on with Brian Flores. And of course, why aren't there that many black coaches in the NFL? And I'm one that likes to make sure I get it right. So I did pull up the transcript from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. They were the ones accredited with the interview the Orlando Ledbetter said. So I put it up here. He said, but we have failed when it comes to hiring head coaches. We've not made the kind of progress that we would like to see. So I think what the commissioner said this morning is accurate. We're going to have to take apart all the pieces of the puzzle and examine every piece and make sure that we're doing all of this correctly. Bring in people from the outside, bring in versions of Flores throughout the league, wherever they exist. Listen to them. What are their experiences? Are they similar to Flores or not? And really just be good listeners and bring in people from the outside that aren't embedded in NFL. So as you see some of that, The main thing I'm sure Atlanta Falcons folks are saying is, okay, last year you had an opportunity to hire a black coach. Uh, you know, let's see if you're going to practice what you preach. Now, in my opinion, I, hmm, and I want to make sure I'm on the right side of this. I see my Dallas Cowboy guy out there. Good to see you, my friend, joining me on Uncle Steve's Lounge. Thank you so much for coming in here. Go boys! I hear you. I hear you. I'm going to talk to you a lot next year too. I hope we get a chance to get in on some of the insights of those Cowboys and see what y'all going to do to bounce back this year. But right now, we're talking about Arthur Blank and what his comments about the hiring of black coaches. And the fans' rebuttal would be, oh, well, you're talking a lot of smack, but you had an opportunity to hire a black coach. Well, I'm going to tell you what also Arthur Blank did last year. Arthur Blank hired African American GM. And not that Terry Fontenot is the first, but I also say when we start talking about hires, yes, it would be absolutely nice if we could meet up to expectations again over seven. I think the number is 77%. If I'm not correct, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's what it is. 70%, 77% of the players are African American, and you have one currently before Lovie Smith. You currently have one African American coach. Now I know they say the guy in Miami is half biracial. I'm not sure, but yes, that has to be balanced. But for those ready to throw Arthur Blank under the bus so quickly, I just start thinking about the history of him. And, he took a chance in 2001 making Mike Vick a number one pick as a black quarterback. And back in that day, hey, listen, black quarterbacks were just getting to start getting their splash. And I am somebody who says, wow, he's taking a big chance. And not only that, not a chance so much that Mike Vick wasn't talented, but he's going against the grain because there was a stigmatism that came with having black quarterbacks. The stigmatism that, oh, they aren't smart enough. They aren't able to read defenses. All those things that were hush-hush behind the scene that Arthur Blank said, you know what? I'm going to take a leap of faith because this cat looked like he's a winner coming out of Virginia Tech. I'm going to get him. And he did. And I look at that to say, okay, he's the owner of the Atlanta Falcons. You can't tell me it's not business as well. A black starting quarterback in pretty much the black mecca of America, and you bring him in, that's good business sense. Now, I don't want to get into, you just hire him because he's black and he'll fill up the stadium, which he did. But I also say that he took a chance because he's a businessman. And he says, listen, I think I know what I need to get this fan base energized. Now, of course, that was also the time when he cut the season tickets down to $10. So that's also a little bit of stuff there. But cutting those tickets down to $10 was also an investment because he knew, hey, listen, we're talking about in the heart of Atlanta right now. The grassroots Atlanta fan is still within I-285 of this city. And people that don't know, I-285 is interstate that encompasses pretty much the city of Atlanta, not the metro areas, but the city of Atlanta pretty much that's considered inside 285. And when he does stuff like that, I think he's looking to say, listen, I'm going to try to help the folks who think, I'm not sympathetic. Now, this is 2001. I'm going to lower these prices. I'm going to try to build this fan base up. And then eventually, later on, we'll make a Mercedes-Benz move. But let's keep it real. That was back in 2001. And he did a lot of things that made the experience in the Georgia Dome much better than what it was before. Painted the seats red and black. Remember that? Did all of that to really make people know that this was, um, this was Atlanta. And for somebody who's lived, born, raised, and lives in Atlanta, that's a big deal to me. Now, did you have missteps along the way? The pushing of Mike Vick in the wheelchair, um, you know, not really keeping more of an eye on Mike Vick. You should know who your players are. I know he wasn't exactly truthful to Arthur Blank when it came to all that stuff. But when you invest $100 million in someone at that time, especially when you start talking about 2006, you got to start thinking about your investment and what you're putting into these players. You got to keep an eye on them and see what's going on. But and some of the things Arthur Blank, he's invested into the community. For everybody keep talking about the curse with the church. Yeah, ask that church now how much money they have and where they're how they're doing financially right now. I'm pretty sure they're fine. Just a lot that I feel like Arthur Blank doesn't get credit for. Now, does it look a little sketchy when you come out kind of hard and somebody will say, well, last year you had an opportunity to do that? Yes, but I think sometimes this is Steve. Y'all call me what you want to. I don't care. I think the hiring of Terry Fontenot kind of evens that out a little bit because there aren't black GMs running around everywhere. So I give him a little credit. Now, what I want to see him do is do something about this PSL situation. And, I know what it was for. I know it helped build the stadium. I get it. And listen, I took the opportunity and the leap of faith, and I'm sure a lot of other folks who bought into that have done it too. So yeah, we can cry about it now, but those are things that you go back and look and say, "Ooh, I wish we could have done that a little different." But other than that, man, Arthur Blank to me is one of the better owners in the NFL, and all of the owners have made mistakes from Kraft down to this joke guy down in Miami, Stephen Ross. So I'm not as hardcore on Blank as many, but I just feel like the Arthur Blank gets a really bad rep to me. I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm just saying he gets a bad rep to me when I start thinking about um, some of the stuff he's done over the years. Jimmy Wayne, what's going on? See, I think McKay picked the current guys, not Arthur. And he doesn't, but here's the thing, Jimmy. I go back to almost the same argument about Matt Ryan. You can pick the tight end, offensive line, wide receivers, running back. When you lose, the finger is pointed at the quarterback, fairly or unfairly. Arthur Blank hired Rich McKay. So if he hired a man who picked the current guys, then that's who gets the love. I mean, that's who gets the criticism or whatnot. When if Arthur Smith fails, whether McKay hired him, Fontenot, and we know Fontenot couldn't because he got Smith first. But no matter how it rocks, it's always going to go back to Arthur Blank. Always is. Not a very factual statement you make, but even if that's the case, it all points back to the owner. Just like I always talk about the team. Team can be 0-16. Matt Ryan throws for 5,000 yards, 80% completions, 50 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. The blame is going to go on Matt Ryan as the quarterback and the leader of the team. Same thing goes for the team. So I understand what you say about McKay, but at the same time, McKay got hired by Arthur Blank. And right now, currently, I think it's the longest tenured employee since he's been to the Falcons. So you can say that. Mike, what's going on? Say, hey, Steve, does Mel Blank even watch the quarterback play? He's delusional. I'm pretty sure you met. Does he even watch the quarterback play? Well, I mean, look, when you hire football people to make decisions, and you invest in them heavily, you are thinking that these are the guys that know what they're talking about. Arthur Blank does not try to pretend to be Jerry Jones. Arthur Blank does not try to pretend to be a GM. He hires folks that he thinks is best for the job. And I'm glad you brought that up, Mike. I'm going to show you this comment in 1 second. This is from the same interview when he was talking about Matt Ryan. I know there were a lot of people that were kind of questioning when he was referring to the future of Matt Ryan. And I'm going to go to this real quick again, courtesy of Atlanta Journal-Constitution and D. Orlando Ledbetter's interview. He said, on the succession plan from quarterback Matt Ryan, our fans should look for a succession plan. I don't think it's not improper. It does show a lack of confidence. It doesn't show a lack of confidence in Matt, but father time will get to us all. It's just the way it works. The human body isn't designed, to live to 150. So, Matt has given his great 14 years since 2008, still playing at a high level. He and Coach Smith are on the same page. Sometimes you'll have a head coach or an offensive coordinator that doesn't see the world the same as you. Now, I think what he's saying there is, we appreciate you, Matt, but tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Tomorrow isn't promised to anybody. Hear that in church all the time. But it is. And on Matt Ryan, Arthur Blank is saying, okay, I know I signed off on the check. I know I signed off on the contract, but I was going by what other people were saying. They're saying that he was going to be someone who took us to another plateau. I think the biggest mistake in this whole thing with Arthur Blank, Thomas Dimitroff, and at the time, Dan Quinn, I think when we signed him to that original contract, not the restructuring and everything, but when we re-signed him, and I believe that was on the eve of the 2018 season, and they gave him all of that money, I think they were kind of foolish to put the number of years on it. I think they were looking at Tom Brady, they were looking at Drew Brees, and they were looking at how those guys were in their mid to late 30s and still flourishing. Listen, I'm not saying that Matt isn't a still serviceable top half of the NFL quarterback, but I am saying that the investment that we have put into him has hamstrung this organization from doing anything else. I was going to put this up on a post, but I want people to actually think about this. If Matt Ryan was making about $20 million a year for this team, now I'm talking about salary cap and everything with no down the road things. If Matt Ryan was making $20 million this year, would you really be upset? I don't think you would. If Matt Ryan made 25, I'm stretching up to 25. If Matt Ryan over the last couple of years was making $25 million in 2019, 2020, and last year, I don't think you would see this uproar. I think what it is a combination of things. It's a combination of, yes, Matt needs help, but Matt isn't the Matt of 2016. And you see this big inflated cap hit that we take for these last couple of years, especially this year coming up. But if he was not making that money, would we still be in the rush to get him out of there? Now, I would be trying to look for a successor. I would have started that process last year. But I think if the money wasn't what it was, I would be okay. Again, don't get that twisted. I'm not trying to tell you I don't want the future to come into this organization. I'm saying if the hit of the money was less, would you hear as much outrage for us to move on, or for us to be dogging him out as we tend to do on quite a bit in this group? I don't think it will be. I don't think it will. Let me know. Let me know how you feel. My therapist says, I want your opinion on this myself, and others have been wanting to pass rush for years, and I think we should do so with our pick. But given Ridley could be on the move, do you think we take a receiver? If so, what's your take on Treylon Burks being picked at number 8? And is that the guy from Arkansas, I believe, or whoever that is? But either way, we don't get a receiver. You don't get a receiver at number 8 in this draft. In this draft, you must improve this pass rush. You must improve this pass rush. As much as I just finished this eloquent soliloquy on Matt Ryan and how much he takes up this cap and all of this and all of that, right now, because I know Matt's going to be in place, you must address the pass rush. You have to. We have ignored it. We thought we had a little stopgap when we got Dante Fowler. That was another foolish mistake on Thomas Dimitroff on the way out. We must improve the pass rush. I do like a little bit of the energy from the young guy we got in the draft from Notre Dame. I like him. I like a couple. I can't think of the guy's name. Rush that we had this year. I like a couple of those guys, but in order for us to be successful, you must affect the quarterback. Too many times this year, we made Daniel Jones look great. At the end of the Jets game, we almost let Zach Wilson revitalize himself. We let a backup quarterback come in here and beat us. What's the team? I'm forgetting that quick. We made Sam Darnold look great in the dome. Too many times we are unable to affect that quarterback and put him off his spot. And because we haven't been able to do that, I think that plays into parts of our failures over the last few years. I mean, we haven't had significant pass rush since the Super Bowl year. Even the year we had the pretty good defense in 2017, we weren't putting up sacks like that year. So, yeah, I disagree. I not disagree. You asked my thought. I don't think you get a wide receiver. I don't think. Hey, Lisa, how you doing? Say the PSLs need to go. I pay them begrudgingly. So do a lot of us. Yes, I agree. I don't think that's I think we need to move on from that. Lisa also asked, do you think Arthur Blanks needs to ease up on his comments about the team? They seem to just stroke the fires of controversy. You know what I think it is, Lisa? And this is just brutally honest. Arthur Blank is he's not a spring chicken anymore. And I think he's saying, look, I'm a $1 billion owner. I need to criticize these cats. And he realizes that he hired, I think notice, since he fired Dan Quinn, Arthur has become a little bit loose-lipped about being a matter of fact about things. Before, you saw him kind of being more politically correct when it came to his team. Yes, the Falcon for life thing. Yes, we're dedicated for this guy to stay here for the future. Ever since he got rid of Dimitroff and Quinn, you haven't heard any of that. Now you can hearing a very candid Arthur Blank criticize his team, say he's not happy with what's going on. I like it myself. Man, the man signing the checks. So why shouldn't he be able to say what he wants to say? Yeah, and stroke it. Shoot. Yeah. Scratch that. It's terrible. But keep talking like you do, Arthur. I think if anything, I think maybe it'll put a lot of these guys on notice. You can't. This is kind of some of the feedback that should have been happening in 2018 and 19. I think 2018 and 19, we were so shell-shocked when just about all of the defense fell apart and we weren't able to put it back together. And he thought, well, it's all about next year, 2019. And then we started real slow and had to come back that year. And then 2020, I think he's just had enough. And if you listen to him over the last 2 years, even at the beginning of the 2020 season, 2021, I should say, before we knew what was going to happen with Julio and Matt, they were asking him, hey, is anybody untouchable? No one's untouchable on this team. He said it. Go back to the interview where he was sitting up there with Rich McKay, and he and Rich was sitting in the office. He was making no bones about it. We need to do anything we need to do to win. And he has every right to. I don't disagree with him. Matter of fact, I find it refreshing. I find it very refreshing. Jimmy says our fans I'm telling you, they hate him. They want a new quarterback, period. Well, listen, Jimmy, here's the problem. It's not about hating him. I mean, I think I don't care if Joe Montana was quarterbacking in 18, 19, 20, and 21. This is a different age. Somebody was making a comparison. I don't know who it was on a post. Somebody sent a post and said, well, the fans need to go back to when Fulton County Stadium was there. They don't know about bad football and whatever. And I'm saying to myself, okay, while that may be factual, you're comparing 21st century losing to vintage losing. What's the common denominator? You're still losing. So I'm going to compare how we're losing in the 2000s to how we were losing in the 70s and 80s. That's ridiculous because we still losing. And Bart Koski would never get that. Yes, he would. If Bart Koski was here in the 21st century, he would be getting crushed. And I got news for people. Bart Koski, he threw a lot of interceptions early on. That was like his forte. He threw more interceptions than Brett Favre was throwing. And that was kind of his knock until the 1980 year where he kind of got it together and almost put up MVP numbers by 1980s era. Those were really good numbers he had. But Bart Koski was very similar to Matt Ryan as far as a lot of people in the league gave him props, but nobody was ready to say, oh, he's elite. He's one of the top. And then his era, he had to fight like legends. So it's very hard for people to understand that quarterback thing, fair or unfair, people just want to see you win. Did Jalen Hurts really have a great season this year? I'm not sure, but I know Philadelphia got to the playoffs. So every time you hear good young quarterback, we're going to throw Jalen Hurts' name in there. Did Ryan Tannehill have the same type of earth-shattering year that he had last year? No. But when he made the playoffs and you're the number one seed, you get the love. So it comes hand in hand. Arthur Blank right now has to kind of sit back and see what he can do. We can't keep mortgaging the future by kicking this money down the line. I keep seeing these Matt Ryan apologists come on. Well, get used to it. We're stuck with. That's a foolish and dumb thing to do and say. That's foolish. It's almost the Matt Stafford was dealing with that in Detroit. Well, we got a great team, but Matt Stafford's still great, and they were going nowhere. And then finally somebody pulled the trigger and say, okay, well, let's see what happens. And who knows? I'm not saying Jared Goff is the answer, but at least they get a chance to reboot and reset. When you lose 4 years in a row, I mean, come on now. It's more than the quarterback. It's everything. But the quarterback is the one, y'all. So I don't understand that sometimes. Sometimes it's just very interesting to me. Martavius says, "Yep, he's from Arkansas. You got a guy. Yeah, he's good, but I don't think that's a Falcon. No, that would be not quite as much of a stretch as getting a tight end at number 4, but it would be pretty close. You get yourself a defensive um, edge rusher, pass rusher, monster linebacker, Will Anderson esque. I know he's a sophomore, but someone like that, I would live with that. But you can't get a wide receiver at 8, in my opinion. Lisa said quarterbacks can knit sweaters in the pocket with the time they have. Pass rush is sad. That's about true. We had Josh Allen dead to right in that game in Buffalo. We really did. But at the end, when he had all that time back there, and think about it, he had time in that game and was still throwing interceptions. So at the end, he just kind of tightened it up and then got himself together. Think about it. Tom Brady, same thing. Plenty of time. You can't give good folks that much time. Folks, we let Trevor Siemian eat us up on the last game of the year. Trevor Siemian. Come on, man. Gotta improve that. Mike said, when is the last time we had a pass rush? I like the kid from Michigan. I love the kid from Michigan, and I think he's going to be gone, Mike Hutchinson. I think he's going to be out of there. I love Thibodeau from Oregon. I think he's going to be nice. I think he's going to be gone. I know a lot of people have been talking about Jermaine is it Johnson? I'm not sure if he's going to be number 8, but he's pretty good. Shy Boogie, what's going on, brother? I say trade back a few spots on draft Jordan Davis and pick up a few more picks. Yeah, now the only thing about that, Shy, I don't mind the Jordan Davis pick. Now, you're talking about affecting your pass rush. And I think Jordan Davis is such a specimen that it would be hard to not key on him and not if you have to mush 3-4. If somebody gives you the right package, I would go for it. Why not? You go for it if they give you the right package only. But I think Davis would be nice. Not at number 8 though. Not feeling him at number 8. I love Jordan Davis for us. Trade back to get him. He's been working out with Chuck Smith, and I tell you, he's going to be a better pass rusher than people think. Yeah, you know what, though? At this point, I don't even need – listen, it would be lovely if he could pass rush. I don't even really need him to be a big pass rusher. You know what I need to do? I need him to soak up 2 offensive linemen. I need him to be so dominant that it takes 2 guys to get on him. Because if it takes 2 guys to bring down 6'6", 340 pounds, then that frees up the rest of the defensive line, or a shooting Mike linebacker or Will linebacker to go back there and get the quarterback. I love what he could bring to the game if we're able to get him. Trust me, that would be a nice move. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure at number 8. That's my only thing. Martavius says, I don't think that people hate him. People are frustrated. Teams like Cardinals, Packers, Chiefs, Bills, Chargers, et cetera, are giving fans something to cheer about it, and us not so much. Again, Martavius, I think that falls into the line of fool's gold. I think when Matt Ryan was up for his contract both times, it was almost like the stars aligned. His first contract was due right after the 2012 season when he took us to the verge of the Super Bowl in the game we lost at the Georgia Dome against San Francisco. And then after the Super Bowl, after an MVP season, then following that back to back with another small chance to return to the NFC Championship, his contract was up again. So both of those times, the Falcons were in a case like, man, this dude is really earning his money. He's going to make us squeeze everything we have. And good for Matt Ryan for his timing. Now, the thing we did last year, don't let that fool you. We had to do that in order to get under the salary cap. That wasn't a matter of, oh, he's doing so great, we're going to stretch it, stretch the money down the line. He was going to be here contractually no matter what. But they had to move money in order for us to get under. Now that we got a little bit of gap there where we get about $20 extra million every team in the NFL, where it goes up to about 200, I think it's almost up to 200 million for the cap. Now you can start doing some things, some flexible things. Hopefully Matt will get it together. Hopefully this offensive line will gel and we go forward and get a couple of pieces we need. But yeah, I hear you. All those teams you said got new quarterbacks, got folks that excite the base. Kyle Pitts is going to be somebody eventually that excites the base. I just don't think a tight end is somebody that you grab that high in the draft. And I stand by that as long as I'm here. I stand by that. Mike says, I don't like the best athlete available mentality. I'm not either. I think that's why they ended up getting Kyle Pitts. Though we hear the whispers that maybe if Trey Lance would have been available at 4, that could have been a possibility. I think on the outside looking in, everybody looks at it as this great move because Kyle Pitts is this just freak of nature at that position. And I'm not trying to say Matt is not doing his thing, but not Matt, but Kyle isn't doing his thing. But I still don't think you get a tight end that high. I just don't think you do. And hopefully he turns out to be all world, better than some of the other guys who are here. Now, were here, I should say. And I guess the benchmark would be Tony Gonzalez, I guess, as far as tight end is concerned. But I do think he's going to be somebody that's pretty good. But I just don't think that's a number 4 pick. I don't think it is. So that's my opinion. As far as the Falcons trade rumors, of course, we saw a little bit where I saw, and it's so hard because it's one of those fly-by-night websites where they were saying they heard Grady Jarrett. People were talking to them about Grady Jarrett. At this point for the Atlanta Falcons, because we're in such a should we, shouldn't we kind of thing, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if we got rid of Grady, but only if we got rid of him for something significant in return. If you're going to get rid of Grady Jarrett, you better bring you either bring a A+ player back, or you better bring a significant second round, some would argue first round, but at least a second round pick back in return. Because Grady has been the heart and soul of the defense the last couple of years, and I know that's not saying a lot that the defense hasn't been that great. But if you're going to trade him, you better bring something in return. Right now, as far as this, and we're talking pre-free agents, pre-draft, right now as it stands, with the roster going into 2022, what is it that the Atlanta Falcons fans have to look forward to? I know we had the talk about how things have been turned upside down in the NFC South with Brady leaving, with Sean Payton retiring, with Carolina not knowing what they're going to do with their quarterback position. It should be where we're in a great position to be the heir apparent to Tampa Bay for the NFC South championship. But quite honestly, with the roster as constructed, do you really have faith in that? I have outside faith that maybe with one more year, this offensive line could possibly gel a little bit better because you probably can't be as bad as you were this year. Probably can't. I don't think you can. I keep thinking back to 2015. And if y'all remember in 2015, that offensive line was not good at all. That was the same one where we grabbed Levitri late. Chester was there. I think the only change they made on that line that was significant was Alex Mack came in from Cleveland. But other than that, it was the same cats up there. And then the next year, all of a sudden, the offensive line did a much better job. And offensive lines are sometimes one of those things that it takes a while. I remember people used to dog out Dallas. Dallas went and had the 3 offensive line #1 picks like out of 2 years. And at first it was like, oh my goodness, horrible offensive line. And then in about 2 years, and really since then, that's been one of their strengths. Usually don't see Dak on his behind a lot. But that's definitely been one of the strengths. Mike says, do you think we can afford Patterson? It's going to be one of those situations that you're going to have to wait to see what happens before March 16th. And of course, that's the first day all the teams have to be under the cap. Most of you people know who's going to be free agents, who's not. There's a small period of time that you can re-sign free agents. And I think if Atlanta doesn't do anything with Patterson before then, I think Patterson's pretty much gone. And I don't know what Patterson is looking for. He's got to be looking for somewhere between 8 and 10 million. Are we really going to do that with him? Or do we draft somebody that has that kind of ilk? Or do we pick somebody else off the scrap heap? I mean, we got Patterson off the scrap heap last year. And we find somebody else that can do those type of things. It's a great thing for Cordero, but I think you can find somebody. He's not the end-all, be-all for me. As great as he was on this team this year, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. If the finances were straight, I would say no-brainer. But the way our finances are, I would rather invest in a young wide receiver and put him in that position and have him be a jack of all trades and do those things. I think Cordell just happened to be available to do those things. Maybe we just need to draft people that can do those things that he was doing. But I don't think you just sign him just to sign him. I don't think the Falcons are going to go crazy with that. Lisa says, so in your estimation, when can we expect to be contenders again? Lisa asked me that question on April 30th. And that'll be after the last day of the draft. It's hard for me because of the thing I just said about the NFC South. Quite honestly, you're about to see Tampa Bay players are going to be jumping off that bandwagon like folks were jumping off the Titanic with Tom Brady not there. Those free agents, they're not going to stick around for a rebuild unless they make this crazy move and try to get somebody like Russell or whatever. But in order for them to do that, they would have to pretty much mortgage the future. I'm not sure if even Tampa Bay is ready to do that. Got a lot of veterans on that team. I'm not sure. And then they know money-wise, you got Godwin. Godwin's coming up on free agency. They're probably going to have to franchise him again. Yeah, there are a lot of things that could have us in contention, but ask me after the draft, Lisa. I can't give a full, wholehearted answer until I see what this roster looks like. I want to give you an answer, but I just can't. Martavius says it depends on free agency in the draft, but I think we'll do better. And I'm kind of in that same boat. I think if I'm very optimistic that we can get better. And again, you're looking at Carolina. We saw what Carolina, we split with Carolina and New Orleans. We see what they are. That neither one of them right now are in position to be, barring a major change at quarterback. None of the three teams in our division are quarterback, or we're envious of their quarterback situation. Right now, Matt Ryan is probably the man at quarterback in our division. Now, that doesn't mean that other people aren't going to make a decision. Other people are going to make a decision on that. So let's see how that ends up working out. Lynn, how you doing? Good to see you in here. I would love to be on top of the division and see some good things happen so us fans could cheer. Look, I am so ready, Lynn, to absolutely explode in that stadium. When I start thinking about when was the last genuine fire in that stadium, it's probably the Thursday night game against the Saints back in 2017. That's probably the most significant moment where the fans probably lost their minds. But Mercedes-Benz, we haven't had that feeling. The fans haven't been able to cheer. And that's just like on site. But I'm sure overall fans want to back this team. We want to back this team. The ridiculous notion that we don't want to back this team is ridiculous. I'm not saying it's ridiculous twice. But we want to support the Atlanta Falcons. We see how much our fans will really back this team from 16 and 17. And some of you don't remember the previous Matt Ryan run from 08 to 12. That place was rocking. That Georgia Dome was on fire. Couldn't get people in to the second quarter, but it was still on fire. And even back to the Vic days. And shoot, even Fulton County Stadium. Back in 80, I wasn't here. I was in the Army doing the Too Legit to Quit year, but I'm pretty sure they were going crazy then too. Winning cures everything. We can talk draft picks. We can talk free agency. We can talk quarterback change. We can say that till we're hoarse and can't speak anymore. Folks, winning changes everything, cures everything. Mike says, who is your number 8 pick? I've been going back and forth. I would not mind seeing Stingley at the other cornerback. That wouldn't hurt my feelings to see that happen. I know a lot of clamor has been for Nakobe Dean to be here. I like Nakobe a lot. Obviously, heart and soul of that defense at Georgia. And I'm not ever going to doubt his effort and what he did. He really can, he got a motor. I'm afraid in the NFL, when those measurables come up, I'm just not sure if I can take that chance, because he's not going to get any taller next year. He might be able to play, but he's not going to get any taller. So if one of the aforementioned rushers happened to somehow pad, and there were some people talking about Hutchinson's stock might have dropped. I mean, I would love that, because I think that guy has a motor too. And Thibodeau, I don't think those guys are going to drop much further. I definitely don't think they're going to drop to 8. If they did, I would grab them. Get Stingley. See what you can do in your cornerback position. See if you can literally get somebody to help AJ out. and have your cornerback duo for the future. Because that could help out your safeties, be able to play more man. I think that would be a significant upgrade if the two pass rushers aren't there. Lisa says we need more wins in the bin. We do. We need more moments, Lisa. We need not only wins, we need moments. What's aside of the moment so far since the bins has been open, I would argue that Deion Jones interception of Breeze in the end zone has been the moment for the Atlanta Falcons. We have not had any other moments there. If you can think of one, let me know. I was there the first game with Aaron Rodgers. That first year coming off of the Super Bowl, I said it was great to beat Rodgers for the first game there. I'm trying to think other than the Saints game, what other moments were there? I don't think there were. So to your point, wins and moments. You gotta have some fans. We're very reactionary. We see something on TV that excites us, then we want to get out there and be there too. Falcons haven't given us any reason to come out there. When I'm sitting there, and my son and I are sitting there, and I'm looking all the way down the road a couple of games this year where there was nobody. No one feels that excitement anymore, as opposed to the Georgia Dome where you had to get up out of your seats every 2 minutes because somebody's going back and forth to get food. I would rather have that situation where you just packed in there. And I know COVID, I'm not trying to be whatever, but where you have that camaraderie of fans together, as opposed to sitting there and I could talk to the guy in the other section. Hey, what's up, man? Hey, what's going on? And I can hear him clearly. Or even worse than that, the fans from the other team are outnumbering the fans from our team. That Philadelphia, that opening game, that was embarrassing. There were legitimately more Philadelphia folks in the lower bowl than there were Falcon fans. Anybody who was there can agree. That whole lower bowl, aside of the fan section they have on the spirit section, Philly folks ran that place. Ran it. Lynn says it was the Georgia Dome when we beat Green Bay to go to the Super Bowl. Best moment of my life. Best moment at a game in my life. Talk about it all the time. That feel. And I think that part, along with the aforementioned PSLs and the situation that fans have to get into going into the next stadium, we were riding such a high to close the Georgia Dome. And then think about it. Our last game was supposed to be the week before in Seattle. We were resigned to saying, well, we win this one. And that was a Saturday night. So when that Saturday night game happened and we went to the next day, you kind of figured Dallas was going to beat Green Bay. They were the number 1 seed, Dallas was. And Green Bay upset them, and you gave one more chance. So again, rolled that momentum all the way to that year. And then you go into the Mercedes-Benz. Yes, you had a winning campaign the year after, but I think we actually won more games on the road, I think, that year than we won at home. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. And now the Benz just hasn't done it. But you got to win. We got to win. You got to. Jimmy says, here's the problem. You got to win in Atlanta. That's how you should fill the stadium. Without a doubt. Michael says, I hear I read Stingley is injury plagued, so I like the kid from Cincinnati. Yeah, I hear people. Are you talking about is that the guy? Sauce? Is that the guy that they're talking about? Yeah, and maybe him too. Maybe him too. I think you couldn't go wrong either way. It would be nice to have another guy back there with AJ. My Taylor says, Unc, I know this is off topic, but what are your thoughts on the USFL returning? Will you be watching the USFL when it returns in April? I'll probably keep an eye on it. I'm a football guy, but I'll probably keep as much of an eye on it as the XFL. If I'm there, if I'm off work, maybe whatever. I don't know if they're going to play games on Sundays or Saturdays. Yeah, I'm probably more of an NFL guy, but I am intrigued because of the history of the USFL. That was kind of a little bit of a different situation. The USFL originally came in back in '83. It was the year after when Herschel got. People say Herschel left, but Herschel was going to be in trouble for some things. It would have at least been on probation had he stayed. But the USFL, they had people with money in that league. That's why they got the talent that they had in that league. When you talk about Jim Kelly and Steve Young and Herschel Walker, folks, they had legitimate folks there. As opposed to these leagues now, where next year I think what's his name, Dwayne Johnson's XFL is supposed to reboot. Now you have the USFL. If those guys, if their intention is to be a minor leagues, that might be more of what you're going for. Obviously in the off season, so they're not trying to compete with the NFL. If your idea is to make a league that get to see some of the guys that you probably wouldn't see, almost like a season-long combine for some guys who want to get a chance at the big level. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'll watch a little bit. John Harris, what's going on, Jay? Jason, since we got rid of that hanger on in the pro scouting department, I'm hoping that better deep searches in the South Georgia would get us better players. Yeah, I was surprised, Jay, that guy was still around. Sabo, just to show you, quite honestly, I didn't realize he was still around. I thought they gutted the whole scouting department. So the mere fact that he was still around might give you reason to see why our draft was kind of like, even though look, you give drafts 2 or 3 years. I don't want to totally dog the draft, but you got Jalen Mayfield. Haven't seen enough of Richie Grant yet to get a full grade on what he could do. And of course, we've seen Kyle, but maybe that'll make a difference. You got that. Look, we have 3 picks in the first 2 rounds. You got to make hay. And depending on what happens with the Ridley situation, you could have more. So we got some things to do, folks. Jimmy says, best moment for me was the Sunday night football game. Julio ran the screen for the touchdown to win it. Oh, yeah, against the Eagles. Yeah. I was there for that. Don't get me wrong. It was definitely a big moment. I don't think that's as big of a moment as getting the interception from the Hall of Fame Drew Brees, who's the quarterback of your biggest rival in your stadium. I think that was it. And I missed that game. I was at work. But my son was gracious enough to call me in the middle after the interception, and I could not hear a word he was saying. That's how much I think that moment is probably way over. That was a good moment. I was there for that. That was a good moment. But yeah. Lisa said that was a bad showing for our season opener versus the Eagles. And think about that. Think about that for a minute, Lisa. Or all year long, You've gone through the free agency. You've gone through the coach change. You've gone through the draft. You looked at the combines. You watched the scrimmages. You got through the preseason. Fans had not seen Atlanta Falcon football, and really, it's another coming off the COVID year where everybody wasn't going to the stadium in 2020. I didn't go in 2020. So you had all that built up anticipation going into the season opener against the Eagles in 2021. And folks, it might, at least what you think, 80%? Maybe, but it definitely wasn't full. And again, that lower bowl, the bowl that you see mostly on TV, mixed. My section, mixed. So you had a lot of folks that just tells me a lot where the fans were going into 2021. Fans weren't believing the hype of Kyle Pitts. Fans may have been a little frustrated about decisions made with Matt Ryan. Might have been a little disenfranchised with what was going on with the organization. Real Falcon, I say real Falcon fans, but Falcon fans who still want to invest their time and money going to the game, they did what they did. But there might have been other people that said, I'll wait for the genuine reboot. Lisa says, through it all, though I'm seeing Henry Eisen win NFL Fan of the Year was really cool being a Falcon fan. Is it for the faint of heart? And there is no glory in this. Yeah, I saw that. 31 years fan or something, but I saw that. That was awesome. That was an awesome ceremony they did when they had the folks, and I saw that film yesterday. Oh, was it yesterday or this morning? I think I saw it this morning. That was really good for him. Congratulations to him on that honor. Martavius says, that's what I'm thinking. USFL and XFL would be minor leagues, and it would be interesting. It would be something to fill the gap. Yeah, I feel you on that. This is true. Mike says, I want a close, exciting game, and I want the Bengals to win. We're going to get on that in 1 second. Lisa, what's going on? Daniel, how you doing, brother? Long time no here. Lisa says, that's the first thing I noticed. I was wondering where everybody was at. And really, when you think about it, it wasn't even that. I mean, the tailgate situation was pretty lit driving in. But as the year went on, it used to be where it would take me at least an hour to get to parking. Man, by the end of the year, I was getting there in 15 minutes. I would come from the city, come down Northside Drive, past Pascal's, past that area, and come on in there. It would usually take us easily about an hour. Getting there real cool. Getting in there real fast. Daniel says the fan that got the award been a fan 51 years. Yeah, I know. Okay, sorry about that. 51. I think the game will be over by halftime. Ram gets consistent pressure. Martavius says, speaking of the Super Bowl, I think it's going to be a shootout. I think the opposite. The popular pick has been Cincinnati because I think everybody has bought into the Joe Cool thing. And it's always amazing to me how we can make the story about something else. But this thing, and this Super Bowl situation with Joe Burrow is that reason I'm telling folks, your quarterback makes a difference. Or the facade of your quarterback makes a difference. And I'm not saying Joe Burrow isn't deserving of the credit. Definitely deserving of it against Kansas City. But I am saying that for those who always scream about, but you got to have a full team. Dude, Cincinnati gets nowhere without Joe Burrow. Nowhere. And you could argue they have a closer Their defense is definitely better than ours. Their offensive line, folks, go look at it yourself if you don't believe it. Now, getting Jamar Chase, that's beautiful. T. Higgins, nice. Boyd, nice. Having Hendrickson on your that was somebody I wish we could have got, but I know he was going to cost too much money. When he left New Orleans, I said to myself that was going to make a difference with New Orleans defense, and it really did, because their pass rush. Everybody talks about Cameron Jordan. Henderson was kind of the man on that team, on the New Orleans team. Not slighting Cameron, but he was kind of the man. Anyway, Joe Burrow, all the news. Joe Cool. He's the man. I think Joe Cool is going to be fine tomorrow. I think what it's going to do, I think it's going to be a kind of lackluster first half. I think you're going to see Cincinnati do their famous adjustments as they've been doing in the playoffs. But I think when all is said and done, in my opinion, I think there are too many vets on that Rams team. I think there are too many guys that gotta have it. Aaron Donald, gotta have it. Jalen Ramsey, gotta have it. Matt Stafford, gotta have it. Guys that I sit back and say, we might not get another chance at this thing. We might not. And everybody's been kind of overlooking Matt Stafford, and I'm not here to try to tell you Matt Stafford is elite. But I am trying to tell you Matt Stafford probably looked at one of his good friends, Matt Ryan, a few years ago. Matt Ryan was coming off that MVP season. We had a young defense, had two pretty good running backs in the back. You had an out-of-this-world wide receiver. And what was the thing everybody say? Yo, these Falcons, they'll be back. The Rams, they did everything they could. They got the all-star team. They saw what Tampa Bay did last year. They brought in Von Miller. Von Miller, that's another one. Yeah, he was on the mountaintop with Denver, but he wants to redeem that. He wants to let everybody remember that he's still Von Miller. I think you have too many people on that Rams team that gotta have it. For that reason alone, I look at it, Rams 34, Cincinnati 24. I think Aaron Donald is going to harass and try to, without being malicious, try to really hurt Joe Burrow tomorrow. I look at it, Rams 34-24, and don't get mistaken by the 10 points. I think it'll be one of those things where it'll be close near the end, and then the Rams will pull away for that one last touchdown. I don't think it's going to be quite a shootout. I think it's going to be, I think the Rams are going to come ready to play. I really like that. And as much as everybody's talking about Jamar Chase, and they should, y'all sleeping on Cooper Kupp. Dude has led the league in yards, touchdowns, and catches. But nobody talks about. They talk about OBJ more on the Rams than they talk about Kupp. And Kupp just keeps going. Even last week. I mean, not last week. The NFC Championship keeps going. Gonna be a good game, but I say Rams 34, Cincinnati 24 when it's all said and done. Tyler Higbee is not going to be in the game. That's kind of a big deal, but the other tight end, was actually doing pretty well in that game as well. So I look at the Rams for me. I know the chic pick is the Bengals, but I take the Rams in that one. Hold on, let me get back up here. Sorry, got to catch up with some of these things. I think that's Mike. I want a close, exciting game, and I want the Bengals to win. Absolutely. Shoot. And I think the game will be over by halftime if the Rams get consistent pressure. I think that's something that hasn't been talked about a whole lot. We've been doing the Joe Cool, and everybody is all in love with Burrow, as they should. The young man is definitely worthy of the spotlight, but yeah, don't sleep on that Rams defense. Martavius says he thinks it's going to be a shootout. I disagree with you. I don't think it's going to be that much of a shootout. Daniel says Eli Apple and them boys ain't stopping Cup and company. You ain't never lied. Say it's a failure if the Rams lose the game. After they went in on trading the draft picks. Well, you know, if you look at it, they were going in. It was Super Bowl or bust for the Rams. To your point, with all the moves they made, they gotta have it this year. They lose by 1 point, it's a failure for the Rams because they went all in, almost like Tampa Bay. This year for Tampa Bay, that's a failure. That's a major failure, and maybe that's what pushed TB12 out a little earlier. That was a major failure because you brought the all-star team. You basically brought in the all-decade team to come play with you, and you guys couldn't get into the NFC Championship. Martavis says, the Bulldog and me want Stafford to win, but I'm looking forward to a good game. Rusty, what's going on? Rusty said, I got to find a way to start getting notifications. What's up, Steve? I'm sorry, brother. I know, like I said, I know it's on the, I know there's a thing on your Facebook where you can say when Steve goes live or when whoever goes live, you can put it on there. Daniel says, Cam Jordan about washed up now. Not about washed up. I'll take him. Because he's better than anything we have. I don't think he's where he was 3 or 4 years ago, but I do think he's still somebody that's significant. Lisa says it may seem petty, but I want the Bengals to stay in the haven't won a Super Bowl club with us. Plus, the Rams kept the Aints out of the Atlanta Super Bowl. I'll always be thankful for that. There is a little bit of that with the Rams as well. Yeah, I'm kind of more of Martavius talking about the Bulldog part of Matt Stafford since he couldn't quite do it with the Bulldogs. That hopefully he'll be able to, do it then. Daniel says Rico Allen tried sneak dissing us. Rico should be thankful. Rico got cut on national TV. So I don't know why he would be going after the Falcons, but I saw that too. Sorry, y'all. That Coca-Cola came out. Lisa says, I bet Matt and Sarah will be there. They're close friends with Stafford. Yeah, I know. I remember seeing the article about that, about how close they were. And I know that they were very much supportive, their family, when Sarah was going through the difficult pregnancy. And then Matt and his family when Matt's wife was going through the brain surgery that she had. So, yeah, it looks like there is a little camaraderie when you talk about that. So, yeah, I believe that too. I ain't worried about Rico. He'll be fine. Clayton, what's going on, brother? Said Trams can't keep a lot of them vets cap-wise. We need one of them to come to Atlanta. Hey, hopefully they do. That would be great. That would be great if they could. What's the point spread? I know it started at 4.5. I actually don't know what it is right now, but if you give me 1 second, I'll find out. It was 4.5 when it first came out. I would imagine there's been money on. I would imagine the money would be coming in on the Bengals. I know the little idiot salesman in in Texas, he probably moved the line all by himself when he did the little $4.5 million bet on the game. Yeah, I say more power to him with that kind of stuff. I could think of a lot of better things to do with my $4.5 million. Uh, Daniel says I got the Rams winning easily because of the amount of pressure the Rams will get to Burrow early and often. See that's my thing right there. I'm in that mode. I tend to think that that's going to be the biggest factor in that. Trying to see right now. 4 points at this moment. 4 point spread. 4 point spread. I know it opened at 4.5, so they did close it down a little bit. So 4.5. 4 point spread for the Rams to beat Cincinnati. I remember it opening, so it didn't move that much. Bold prediction for me is the Rams break a record for sacks as a team in the bowl. I don't think that's as bold a prediction, seeing what Tennessee did to them a few weeks ago. The difference, I think, when you start talking about Tennessee and you start talking about the Rams, whose offense do you probably trust a little bit more? I'm not even saying Cincinnati's defense might not mess with Stafford a little bit. But I think if you look at the matchups truly, the aura of Joe Burrow is really nice in everybody's mind right now. But I think when they put toe to leather, I just like that Rams defense a little bit more. And I'm pretty sure Ramsey is going to wear a badge of honor to try to. He's not going to shut down Jamar Chase, but to take him out of the game is going to be his singular goal. So when I look at that particular matchup, that's the one that makes me think I'm not sure Cincinnati is going to be able to do a whole lot. Now, if it's a close game in the end, very close game, I give a little bit of edge to Cincinnati because McPherson has been muddy, especially in the playoffs. So if the Rams need to definitely keep a little space between them. Clayton says, "Go Dogs." Sony Michel and Stafford. Forgot the third person. Leonard Floyd's on that team too, right? And Leonard Floyd on that team. Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd, Stafford, and Michelle. Yep. Daniel says Burrow makes too many mistakes to overcome a secondary like the Rams have. I think the one thing I will give the intangible to Joe Burrow is almost like that same intangible I was given to Josh Allen. When you're able to extend plays, folks, and that's one of the things I've been screaming to the rooftops, and maybe somebody will listen to me one day when everybody wants to make the Atlanta offensive line so perfect so Matt Ryan can have the 1.5 seconds extra to make correct throws and stuff. Athleticism helps you in those situations. Those are the things that when I'm looking at the teams that have taken those strides in the last year or two, it's because they have those guys who are quarterbacking their team that extend plays. Not about rushing for 70, 80 yards a game, which is great, but I'm just talking about just getting out of the pocket, being able to create. And Matt, he tries, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say he doesn't at times, but it's just a different feel, man. It's not the same. It's not the same. They gotta work on that. Daniel says the only matchup I see going for Cincy is Mixon going. Rams have struggled against the run quite a bit. Mixon has slick been pretty good for Cincinnati. All the talk about Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon has Done nothing. I think Joe Mixon was what, the third highest runner this year? I think third, if I'm not mistaken. NFL stats real quick. I'm pretty sure he was third in the league in rushing this year. So I mean, it's not a super shock that he's doing what he's doing, but as I try to tell folks all the time, it's all about the quarterback. Mixon this year, well, he leads the playoffs in rushing this year. He's been first in the playoffs. Obviously, he's played more games. Mixon was third rushing the ball this year, 1,205 yards. So it's not like Mixon is this guy that came out of the woodworks. It's pretty good. Daniel says MVP will go to Stafford, Ramsey, or Donald. I could probably live with that. He said, remember Matt said they had been working on speech. Matt been working on speed training for the last 4 years. And whoever's doing that, they should be fired. Clay says Miller and Donald. I don't think Burrows has seen that talent coming from both sides. Yeah. Lisa said I had Mixon in fantasy. I know you had a pretty good run, and Mixon was pretty good. Daniel says if the boys cut Zeke, would you welcome him to Atlanta for the right price? I think Zeke is the guy that's the man in Dallas now is Pollard. I don't even think they're looking at Zeke like that anymore. Zeke, they paid him all that money. Ooh. Yeah. If he came open, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'd take him. Put some glue on his hands, but I'd take him. Zeke is still serviceable. I'd forgive him for all that stuff he did against us if he was available. At this point, you're gonna have to look at somebody else. I'm not sure if they're gonna go into this season this year with Mike Davis, and I don't think that's gonna have I don't think it's gonna have a salary hit on us. I don't think it will. I have to double check that. But I don't think that's going to affect us if we take another hit with that. And one of the other things I want to talk about too, that we got the news the other day, there were no first-time people on the Hall of Fame ballot that actually made it this year. And I know a lot of people, especially locally here, were talking about Devin Hester. And I'm a person, and I talked about it a lot of times. Special teams are vital. Special teams will win you the games. Special teams can change the field position. But special team players, in my opinion, cannot be first ballot Hall of Famers. I think when you start talking about Devin Hester, this is the first time that you truly had to weigh really how much a person means to a team. Hester was a huge part of the reason the Chicago Bears made the Super Bowl back when they lost to Peyton Manning. Huge reason. And he continued over the years to still return touchdown, did one for us, almost did one in the playoffs against us with Seattle. So Devin is arguably the best kick returner, punt returner in the game. That being said, the case for him has to equal the case for Morton Anderson. Pretty much coming up, Matt Bryant. When Ray Guy took forever, knowing he was the best punter in the game back when I was young. But they have to wait because you play like five plays a game. Now, I will say the kick kick returner, punt returner does have a little physicality to it. You get tackled. You're supposed to get tackled. But as far as just pure everyday player, I'm not sure that special teams guys should be on that same level. I don't think they should. So Hester to me has to wait. And really, there wasn't anybody else on that list. And I'm trying to pull it up real quick. Um, when you look at the guys on that particular list for, I know DeMarcus Ware was one of them. Shoot. I'm going to pull it up in a second. But I just don't think any of those guys, to me, were worthy of Hall of Fame consideration, in my opinion. Rusty said, just want you to know I've been following you on YouTube, and I appreciate that, brothers. Uncle Steve's Lounge on YouTube. Don't forget. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Lisa says, do you think we'll ever get the true story regarding Ridley? I think he's not here this season. So what I'm going to do now, Lisa, because that was actually one of the things I wanted to bring out, because we were talking earlier about Arthur Blank's interview he had with D. Orlando Ledbetter. And I am trying to get to the part here because I want it to be, here we go. So let's bring this up courtesy to AJC. Arthur Blank says it's very difficult because he's a great young man, and we all go through trauma in our lives in one form or fashion. Sadly, his trauma came out obviously this year, triggered by a variety of things, and he's getting all the professional counsel that anybody could expect him to get. And he's been great about it. He cares deeply about football, wants to play, and we continue to find ways to support him. Hopefully, he'll elect to stay with us. This is the important part. Hopefully, he'll elect to stay with us and play with us, but you just don't know. He may feel, I need a fresh start someplace else for whatever reason. But we love the young man. I loved his performance. He always got a smile on his face, always got a handshake, very respectful. So, we'll see. But that during this difficult time for him, we've stood by his side, which is what we should do. That, folks, is what you call owner speak. And what he doesn't want to do is show in any type of way that the Falcons, unlike the fans, that the Falcons organization is not turning their back on him. So when you start talking about the true story of Ridley, it'll probably be just like Julio. Everybody thinks they know the whole Julio story. There is no whole Julio story yet. It'll come out 3 or 4 years from now when Julio's gone. The Ridley story, the mere fact that it's been this airtight, we might not ever find out about that too. But at least I like what Arthur Blank did. Arthur Blank 100% said, we believe in the guy. We hope he gets help. But then he also put that little slimmer in there to say, well, maybe he needs somewhere to start fresh. Because at this point, I think the thought is from Arthur Blank, well, if you're not going to play and there is something here that's mentally holding you back from playing, I would rather you go somewhere where you feel like you can get yourself together. Is it something here in Atlanta that gives you a mental block? So I saw a lot of people criticize him. Why would he talk that good about Calvin Ridley? That's why he's a billionaire and we're sitting here talking about billionaires. You got to know how to move in a room full of folks. And when you talk about media folks, sometimes, they try to find that gotcha moment. And that particular, the way he put that, that was beautiful. Awesome. Couldn't have answered that any better. Couldn't have answered that any better. Going back to Clayton says he holds a record talking about Devin Hester is the only reason I can see he hasn't been first ballot. Yeah, he holds a record, but I mean, again, remember, folks, we're gonna applaud him for 20 touchdowns as a returner. When you have some receivers out there that have 60, 70, 80 touchdowns that aren't in the Hall of Fame, you had wide receivers that had to wait. Terrell Owens had, which to me was the most disgusting wait out of all of them. Like him or not like him, Terrell Owens was a number, but should have been first ballot Hall of Famer. There are some media folks and Hall of Fame folks that just because you don't like somebody, that's kind of ridiculous. Terrell Owens was the best wide receiver for a 5 to 7 year stretch in the NFL. Did he get along with teammates? Probably not. Did he say and do everything he was supposed to do? Probably not. But he stayed off the blotter. Didn't get in trouble with the police. But I thought that was ridiculous. So yeah, special teams, I'm sorry. You're not going to probably get that love for me. Not on the first ballot. I think he'll get in probably eventually next year. Dan says the only person giving Hester a run for his money as a returner is Ted Ginn or Dillon. Yeah, maybe. Don't forget about Metcalf too. Metcalf was a pretty good guy, and actually his dad was too. Do you think Roddy gets in? Absolutely not. Nope. Nah, Roddy doesn't get in. Roddy easily gets into the is easily Falcons Hall of Famer, but not NFL. Very solid receiver, but nah. I'm trying to think, was there ever a time, and one of my criteria I always talk about, for me, if you were considered one of the top 3 people at your position for more than 3 straight years, I'll call you a Hall of Famer. Maybe 3, maybe 4 years. Roddy was solid, but I don't think Roddy was that. Roddy had 1 year where he was an All-Pro, and that was 2010. He was a Pro Bowler for 4 years, and I'm sorry, y'all, Pro Bowl, it's okay, but sometimes Pro Bowls are because other people are in the Super Bowls and they get hurt and all that. Yeah, he was all right. The 2010 year, that was the only year he really had a breakout year. Fan favorite? Absolutely. Love him. Roddy White was the heart and soul of the Falcons for a long time, but I don't think he's a Hall of Fame guy. Let's see. Go down here. Mike says we need to cut. We need to cut Davis. Go back here. Tim, what's going on, buddy? I ain't seen you out here. Say, what do you think they're going to do about Patterson? I think they're going to let him walk, Tim. I don't think Patterson is going to sign another $3 million contract to stay. I think it was interesting at the end of the year, you saw Patterson give the obligatory, of course I want to stay here. Falcons have been great to me. Fans have been great. That's almost like a promo, if you know the world of wrestling. It's like a promo, like getting the fans behind him so they can have this grassroots, we want Patterson, we want Patterson. I'd like to see if they do that. Now, let me say this. Let me preface this. If they can get him for a nice price, like somewhere between 5 and 7 million, somewhere in that range, maybe. But he's somebody that I don't think you even do long term if it's Cordero. I think maybe you give him one more 1 year contract. Give him 1 year 8, 1 year 7. I think anything over 8, you're overpaying him. And if they go multiple years, I think that's a mistake. I think we need to get young in a lot of these positions. As great as he was this year, great as he was, I still would pass. Daniel says Julio was in Ridley's ear and is showing. I just hope for his case it didn't use mental health as an excuse to get out of here. I've seen it on Twitter. He's lost multiple kids at birth the past couple of years, but I don't know it's true. Yeah, and I actually heard that. It's one of those things that I don't like. Yeah, if it's a personal thing, I actually heard about the alleged things about the lost kids a while ago. But that's one of those things. If I don't know, I don't want to. He hasn't publicly, officially come out with that. So I try my best to stay away from rumors that's that personal. But I also saw those things too. So I'm not, I believe you. You say that. What's going on, Ray? How you doing, sir? Glad to join in here. We are talking a little bit of Falcons, a little bit of Super Bowl predictions. Should Devin Hester have been a Hall of Fame player, former Falcon for a couple of years here? Should he have been a Hall of Fame player? Things like that. That's what we're talking about. Ray does come back and say 2 years, $13 million for Patterson. Now, if that's what you're going to do, I'm down. And in the second year, make it to where if he all of a sudden caught up to his age or something happened like that, that you would be able to easily get out of that. Now you're talking. 2 years, $13 million, I'll do that in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Matter of fact, if you wanted to, slide some of that money up so that next year might be another $3 million hit, as long as when he leaves, you're not owing him this money that's going to be dangling from our cap. But that would be perfect. Absolutely perfect. CP is over the age of 30. Keep it in mind. Tidy Jones made a good. Oh, well, you didn't hear me when I was talking about. Oh, that's the only reason you don't. The 2-year thing, because you can do so much with that. What Ray was suggesting, with a 2-year, $13 million, you can front load that, and then next year you wouldn't have to worry about if you decided to move away from him. Then you wouldn't have that much on the other end. You could backload it. And who knows, by next year, if he turns out to have a good year this year, then you might be able to have, somebody in place. That's actually not bad. I wrote Harold Landry over re-signing Cordero if he doesn't ask for too much money. Yeah, and he's gonna ask for some money too, though. Yeah, and see, that's the problem. We have been bit by the money down the line, and I'm not sure if we're going to put a lot of contracts right now, especially for as great as Patterson was for us, y'all. You got to start thinking you don't want to push that money down the road. You got to build another team. You have to bring in a whole new crew of folks. And before you know it, guess what? Lindstrom is going to be up in a couple of years. You're going to want to keep Lindstrom. You got a couple of guys that you got to think about. You don't want to be put in a situation like we are right now with Foye Oluokun. Right now, if you had a choice, if I had a choice, I would have signed him in the middle of the season. But the Falcons probably can't afford him. There's a good chance he's just going to walk. It is real interesting to me. I hear a lot of people complaining about him like he has been garbage this past year. He led the league in tackles. That sometimes that's misleading. Dude, a tackle is a tackle. Ask Devondre Campbell, who led this team in tackles, and we let him go. All of a sudden now he's one of the top guys up in Green Bay. And he actually had a decent time in Arizona before he got hurt. So, yeah, I wouldn't be so quick to try to get rid of him. Tommy, what's going on, brother? Says, why isn't Corey Dillon or Warrick Dunn not in the Hall of Fame? That's an interesting thought, especially the Warrick Dunn one. Warrick Dunn, one of those guys who really carried on the tradition from running and being that running back out in the backfield. That's a good question. Warrick Dunn would probably have more stock at making the Hall of Fame to me than somebody like Devin Hester, because Warrick Dunn, for his size, he played way above his size. And Corey Dillon, he's another one. And Corey, when he went to New England, did they win the championship that year? I think they did. When he left Cincinnati and went to the Patriots. So he eventually did win a Super Bowl. So, yeah. That's something. Daniel says we have a lot of money in the futures when it comes to cap space. You got to get Foyer back and restructure some of the deals and cut some folks. There are about 10 guys I could see us cutting and trading. Ridley would save $11.1 million. Yeah, that's I think why you saw that when I was reading that about Arthur Blank. That's one of those things that I just look at and I say, yeah, I'm sure behind the scenes there is talk about trying to get him up out of here when you talk about that. So yeah. Tommy also says Mike Allstott clouded a lot of Warrick's accolades, but he's not in either. Yeah, Mike Allstott was one of those guys, and I was talking about this. It's so funny. My son and I, Tommy, today we were watching flag football with Mike Vick and Brett Favre, and during that era, that was right around when John Madden was just like untouchable. The Madden game was out of this world and whatever. And if John Madden fawned over you, you became this legendary figure. And I think when you start talking about Brett Favre, I'm not trying to tell you Brett Favre wasn't good. I'm not saying that. But Madden would have you believe that he was Johnny Unitas, Joe Montana rolled into one. And I liked him, but John Madden kind of pumped up Brett Favre. He had a lot of Brett Favre games. That was the time when the Fox games were totally NFC. So he saw Favre a lot. I think the All-Star thing is a legitimate statement because All-Star was this big rumble tumble. You can see Madden, oh, look at him running and tumble. You know, he talks, I can't imitate it. But he built up guys like that. He built up the big guys. He built up the tanks and stuff like that. And I think All-Star was, and don't get me wrong, All-Star deserved that. That Tampa Bay doesn't get where they are that year, but guys like Warrick Dunn do kind of get missed in the mix of things because he was just as much of a part of those teams as All-Star was. But All-Star became a Madden favorite because he could boom and he could boom and all that. And just like Brett Favre became this mythical figure. I was talking about that today. They played this flag game today on my son always hips me to the world of gaming. So they had a flag football game between the FaZe team, if anybody knows gaming, they know that FaZe Clan and AMP or something, and it was Vic quarterbacking against Brett Favre in flag football. It was a pretty good little deal. I was telling people Vic's team won. And for those of you old enough to remember, Vic was led the first team to beat Green Bay in the playoffs. Now we know Aaron has helped screw that record up a lot lately. But Mike Vick was the first quarterback to go in there and beat Green Bay. And for those of you who remember that game, it wasn't really that close. The Falcons defense showed up. Mike Vick was elusive enough. It was in the snow by the second half. I mean, it was a legitimate win. It wasn't fluky at all. But anyway, I was going back just to say that about Mike Allstott. That's one of the things that, I think about that. Daniel says, might as well trade him to Miami or Florida. Talking about Calvin Ridley. I'll trade him to anybody at this point just to, get all that. I think before the draft, I think you want to, as we found out with the Julio situation, you want to get all of that stuff out of here. You want to have, after the draft, you want to have a clear conscience going forward about who's going to be on this team. And all of the drama from Julio not being here, is Julio going to come, the trade. I think all of that stuff plays into the psyche of the team going in. And I don't know Calvin's story. And again, that's for Calvin to tell everybody and all of that. But I do know I don't think he wants to be here. So I just think it's cool to move him on out of here. Yeah, thank you, Tommy. I hear you, brothers. Daniel says, Favre was overrated, but the most overrated quarterback of all time to me is Terry Bradshaw. The only thing is Terry Bradshaw got the hardware. Quarterback teams from that era. So I give him a lot of play. Going on, brother Tidy. How you doing, sir? Tidy said, did the former players run to 40 this year? Oh, you know what? I don't know. Only thing I saw really as far as some of the things going on was the flag football game today that I was just talking about with my son, where Vic went up against Brett Favre in the flag game, and Vic came out victorious against Favre once again. That's the only thing I've seen so far. Daniel says, I miss Chris Berman as an announcer. Every time I see Chris Berman was great for the game. He was great for the game at a time before it became what it is today, where it's just overwhelming. I'm at a time right now. I'm ready for the next guy. When I keep hearing the announcements, him doing the highlights, I know that's what he's known for, and that's what he does, and the bumbling, stumbling, and he could go on. I get all that. That's fine. But at some point, I think it's outdated to me. I'd rather see somebody do straight highlights than to do all of that again. But I know there's a market for it, and I know he was known for that stuff, and there are a lot of people that still love that. So God bless him. But I'm not the hugest 2022 fan of Chris Berman. I liked him back when prime time, him and Tom Jackson were kind of in the middle of it, in the prime of it, no pun intended, prime time. But yeah, he's done. He's done. To me, he's done. Daniel said, I think it was the first time they had been beat at home in 83-year history up until Vic beat them. It was the very first time they had beat. Yes, it was the very first time they had been beaten at all. They had lost in Milwaukee. They used to play games in Milwaukee back in the 70s and 80s, back in the Lynn Dickey days, for some of you who don't remember him. But yeah. Tidy says, our special teams showed up in that Green Bay game too. They did. I do remember that. That was, did they block a punt that game? I think they blocked the punt that game, right? My mind is mixing on me. But I know Brett couldn't do anything. And some of you gonna laugh at me, but the great Keith Brooking had a really good game that game. There's people that hate Keith Brooking. Or as we say down here, Keith Brookings. Daniel says, pretty sure we beat them 27-7. Yeah, we shut them down. We shut them down. Absolutely. Daniel says, bring me on after free agency, Steve. I got a lot to discuss, a couple of things to do. Catch you later. Thank you, Daniel. We appreciate you as always joining us in the group in here. And that pretty much is you were leaving right on the cusp of me getting out of here myself. I've been on here for it's almost 2 hours. So I appreciate the comments. Appreciate everyone. If you didn't hear earlier, my pick for the Super Bowl, I'm going Rams 34, Cincinnati 24. It'll be a close game to the end. Rams are going to score a last quarter touchdown to stretch it out. Joe Burrow is not going to be able to mess with that defense, in my opinion. Think it's going to be a slow start, but I think near the second quarter, I think it's going to be pretty good. Until then, man, listen, y'all have a great night. Might zip in after the game tomorrow. I'm not sure if the other admins might do it too. They might. I don't know. We'll see. Whoever zips in, I'll let them have the form. But until then, you guys have a great weekend. We'll catch you all tomorrow. Peace.